So back in August we had our Tailor Find Your Fit event here at the store. One of the guitars they brought with them was this 914 CE, which has the new V-Class bracing system in it from Tailor this year. I walked into the store that day and this guitar was sitting out. I think we had it on the couch in here, and I picked it up and I just played one chord on this guitar and was instantly impressed. And as somebody who, quite frankly, has always been partial to Martin, I've owned Martin and Tailor. Tailor makes great guitars. I've always kind of been partial to Martin though. But this guitar, again, just the one chord, just right away I could tell that something was different about this guitar. So I wanted to take some time and research and figure out what made this V-Class bracing such a great improvement on the guitar. And I learned a lot of things about it that are maybe a little less obvious. So I wanted to just take a few minutes to talk about those because it's a really cool advancement for acoustic guitars. Obviously, it's designed, first of all, to help the guitar sustain and just project better. A lot of times we have a compromise with how we brace the guitars. We want the top to be flexible, but we also want it to be rigid to produce volume, but have that flexibility to get the tone. And we're kind of constantly battling that. And for a long time, the X bracing that many companies have used has been a good compromise for that. But this V bracing system really goes a step further with it. So it really helps all of those things, the projection, the tone, but it does some other things that you might not be so obviously aware of until you kind of look into it a little bit further. One of those things is that it helps even out the tone and projection across the neck. So a lot of times when you have an acoustic guitar, it might ring very well when you're playing big cowboy chords, but if you go up here to playing kind of like single note kind of lines, it doesn't always project quite as well. And just to kind of demonstrate that, we have another Tailor guitar here, which is the Tailor 314 CE. So this is still an all solid wood guitar, but it has the more traditional bracing system on it. And this is a great sounding guitar in its own right, but you can hear that it just doesn't have that same kind of projection on those single notes as you get when you are playing them on the 914. You know, that's just a much fuller sound out of those notes. So that's a great improvement with this V-Class bracing system. But the biggest one for me is that not only does it help the sustain and projection of the guitar, but it also is going to help the intonation of the guitar. So one of the things a lot of people don't realize is your intonation isn't just from here to here. We also have sections at the top that are going to vibrate as well. And with our X bracing, sometimes they don't always vibrate in total concert with each other, so you have a tendency to get a little bit of warble. It sounds a little out of tune, like the overtones don't quite line up. And the V-Class bracing alleviates a lot of those issues that you have, so you can get a lot more in-tune chords and notes the full length of the neck. You know, a lot of times you're either going to have it down here or you're going to have it up here, but you can't really get it in both spots on the same guitar, and this really helps to fix that problem. And it's a problem that, while it's maybe not the most obvious thing in the world, you might not hear it directly, you know, depending on how sensitive your ears are, but you can always kind of tell. Like, it's one of those things, like, you can just feel that it feels a little bit more in tune. And the story that I like to tell about that is, for a long time when I started playing guitar when I was younger, when I first learned my G chord, you know, we all have this big G chord here, I never quite liked the sound of that chord, the way it played. Like, I never could really put my finger on it, you know, being younger, my ears weren't as developed. It was hard to do, but I would play this sort of other kind of G chord that we do a lot, where we kind of mute this A string and we put our third finger on the B string to play that D. So we give a big, kind of like almost like a power chord kind of sound, and that always sounded better to me. And for years, that was the G that I played when I played the G chord. And it wasn't until later in life that I kind of realized that the reason I didn't like that more traditional voicing is that these B notes in here, which are your thirds, always rang a little bit out of tune, because in our tempered tuning system, that's a whole other kind of video, but we have basically a compromise in our tuning system where everything is a little bit out of tune so that we can play in all of the keys equally. Those B's are one of the first notes that we get, like our thirds are a little out of tune, and I could always kind of hear that, even if I couldn't quite describe at the time why I didn't like it. So I always gravitated towards this voicing, and I've played that for years. This guitar, you pick it up and you strum that chord, and it just rings. Like, everything sounds great. You don't get the warble that you sometimes get with that, which, just to give you an example, I'm going to play that same chord on the 314. Which, it's a very subtle, you have to listen for it, but it's there. You can definitely hear a little bit of the warble in there that you don't get with this guitar. And the thing that's really great with the 914 is that it's not just your open cowboy chords. But you can play all the way up and down the neck. And everything is nice and in tune. It sounds really great and full. So yeah, this V-class bracing is a really huge improvement, and I really encourage everyone to come in here and take a look at it. We have 3 guitars right now that have this bracing. We have the 914 CE, we have the 814 CE, and the 814 CE Deluxe. All 3 are great sounding guitars. Plus we have a variety of other Tailors too that, again, are still great sounding guitars even if they don't have the V-class bracing. I still think this 314 is an incredible sounding guitar, and it's not to diminish that guitar at all, but it is just a really great improvement with these guitars. So I encourage everyone to stop in and compare the two and really hear the difference, because you'll be able to hear it a little bit on the video, but you're not going to get the full effect of it till you sit down and strum this big chord for yourself, and you'll notice it instantly when you play the guitar, because I did. So yeah, stop in, Tone Tailors, 201 Rock Lidditz Boulevard, Lidditz, PA. Check them out.